Today I want to continue our three-part series on protecting an Angular SPA with a WebAPI backend using Azure Active Directory. Earlier we looked at how to create the SPA with the web front end and the SQL database backend. The web APIs are protected with Azure AD authentication. After that, we looked in part 2 at these security groups and how to filter that not all users, but only the users in a given group membership can make a data call to the API. The third thing I'd like to look at is how to schedule an email notification that reads the data API. So here if we come into MS Flow, we can create a scheduled flow. And on this one, we'll name it To-Do List Daily. And we'll set it to run every 1 day and create. So our first step in the MS Flow is going to be to initialize a variable. We'll go ahead and choose the initialize variable action step, put in name, auth header value as a string, and we'll save. Next, we want to do an HTTP post to get the authentication token value. So here we can do HTTP. We'll see it's a premium action. Change the method to post. That's right. And the content type here is actually going to be application www form URL encoded. And then we'll have a body to populate, which includes a couple of different variables. I'll get that ready for us now. Okay, so for the URL, we're going to post into the login Microsoft Online. And this is the name of your tenant. And you actually get that, well, you can get it from the login flow experience. So if we came over to look at the application and we click the login button, we'll see that it'll redirect, log out. There we go. Log in Microsoft Online. There's your name of your tenant, OAuth, and log out. So that URL, that page, is something that we can use even for our MS Flow transaction. So we're going to post to the same endpoint that the GUI uses for login. We're going to use the same identical endpoint. For the body, we need to put in some text, and we need to include the app ID in 2 places and the app secret once. So if we were to come over here to the app registration and locate the app ID GUID number, we can take that and put it in for client ID and for resource. Then we come over here to secrets. We do a new client secret. We could put this that expires in 1 year. That's fine. And you can make multiples and name them. There's the value. So we'll bring that over. We'll put the secret here. And then we're going to remove the line breaks so that everything goes on a single line together and save. Excellent. Okay, so with that, we should get back our access token, and we want to save it into the variable. And to do that, we're going to add a new step for parsing JSON. There we go. And we're going to bring in the body right here, the body of the previous step. Good. And we can go ahead and actually generate a schema from the sample. Then we're going to follow on with a new step. And here we're going to be doing set variable, right? And we're going to set that in, we initialize it empty, but now we're going to set the variable equal to access token from parse JSON. So parse JSON gets data from the HTTP post and breaks it into different named variables. Access token is the one that we want. We'll go ahead and save that. And now we're ready to do our key step that fetches data. So here you can do a post transaction to grab data. And what we're going to want to do under the authentication option is select raw. And for value, we put in our auth header value. So this is what provides authentication on the call to receive data. So we'll go ahead and mark that as a get. And to grab the URL, we can actually go over to the live application. So here we are on the to-do list. We'll go ahead and reload. There's our transaction. We can see that it includes a header authorization bearer token. And that's what we're doing with MS Flow. So when we come over this way and we're looking at the raw auth header, that's the same thing we're capturing. So here what we'll do is go ahead and copy the link address, bring this over to MS Flow and paste. There's the endpoint we're calling to get the to-do list. Now this one says localhost, but we'll need to change that to the remote hosting on the Azure website. So there we are. We'll put in that. Excellent. So we're doing our HTTP GET, and we're putting the auth header, which is going to be our bearer token. And the one adjustment I need here is the word bearer as a prefix. So yeah, the value itself is bearer space and then token, which we can see in the live running application and inspecting F12. There's the parse JSON with the different values that when we get an access token from our login endpoint, that's how it'll be formatted. So from the top, we are doing a post with a grant type of client credentials, the app ID number, client secret, and then the app ID number one more time. It's interesting to note that it's in here twice because it actually shows up as client ID and resource, comes through 2 different times. And this will come back with JSON. We'll parse out just the access token, prefix it with the word bearer, and then we sign all of our data call traffic with that. So this is to get data, return JSON. From this point, we can go ahead and do like a for each and formatting. You can send an email step down here at the bottom and go ahead and provide that data that we're receiving and use the data in formatting an email so that the HTTP2, however it's coming back, we probably want to go ahead and add an action in the middle here to parse JSON because any amount of data you receive, even if it's a single row, you're going to want to parse the JSON of the body in HTTP2, and you can generate one from a sample and then leverage that to go ahead and format the email that you wanted to send, and then that provides the data feed for the final email. So data feed, to-do list, and we'll save. So here MS Flow is looking to generate a schema from a sample. So I can paste in a sample that we had, and we can go ahead and refresh, and now we'll see a little more detail. And now with those components added in, we have our flow fully populated, so we can review it from the top, where we have our recurrent schedule to run daily. We initialize an auth header string variable as empty. We make an HTTP post for the login endpoint with the name of our tenant, and we are sure to include the app ID twice and the client secret once. That gives us an access token. We parse the JSON, we save that into auth header value as bearer space access token. So whatever value we received, we're prefixing it with the word bearer. At that point, we make an HTTP call to go get data, and we have authentication type of raw, and we provide that bearer token, and this is what will sign the traffic as legitimate. It receives JSON, which we parse out. We do a for each loop to loop through each row, each body in the JSON reply. And we could do something like send an email. So for every row within that JSON reply, we actually have the dynamic expressions here from the parse JSON2, which occurred up ahead of this, that the fields are description and owner. And that is exactly what we have in the JSON data that we're receiving. And here's a sample of the JSON just so we can see that, description and owner. There's the description field where we see all the same things that we saw in the web GUI. So that is how you can call an Azure AD protected web API using MS Flow, we have to go hit the login.microsoftonline endpoint to receive our access token and then sign our data call traffic with that token so that we're able to retrieve data. Because MS Flow is a client, the same way a web browser is a client, the same way as a desktop app or a mobile app. They're all HTTP clients. You can still do this. You just have to get the HTTP header prepared. Thanks for watching.